Analyzing Apple's price action intraday, this is a live analysis of what we're currently seeing in Apple's price action. With Apple just recently hitting in the index roughly a 7.6% weighting in the index, it is officially the highest one stock has ever had in official weighting in one particular index, being the S&P 500. That is an incredible amount of weight. Due to the fact that it's close to its $3 trillion market cap, there's no sense that the markets will rise and fall with Apple. And if you look at the move that Apple has done, it is truly extraordinary. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 days of upside action. That is truly, truly impressive. You have to go back substantially on the charts to see that type of action. I don't even think there is a period where Apple had 10 consecutive green days in a row. So what we're witnessing now, you can see that again, we have a simple parallel channel trend analysis. Mixing it in with some volume analysis and the overall analysis of the fundamental backdrop that the Federal Reserve is now implementing. This leads me to a conclusion here that this is the perfect short level for Apple. Even since it's pulled off a little bit off of the highs, the power of these parallel channels is truly remarkable. You can see here you have a pivot high and you just hit a pivot high, and look how you're starting to form a tail. It will be really, really interesting to see if Apple goes red on the day and reverses and puts in a topping tail. If it puts in a topping tail, that is going to be an extremely bearish sign to suggest that Apple has more downside ahead. And after a 10-day rally, the probabilities dictate that a pullback is likely. Where will you find your first level of support if you start pulling back? It'll be this upsloping COVID trend line. That'll be the first big major area of support. It may coincide with a couple of these pivot tops here, but this rising COVID trend line will be your big area of support. And I do think ultimately you break down below that channel and head for the lower range of this channel. As you can see here, you've had pivot low, you've kissed it, almost kissed it, and another pivot low. So you had major levels of support that are defined here and major levels of resistance that are defined here. And if you look at the intraday action, let's just flip to the hourly chart on Apple. You can see how we have kissed off of that trend line and now starting to pull back. Again, the price action as Apple has been extremely, extremely strong. The question is, are we going to get more of a violent pullback, which starts to negate and take out pivot lows? Or is it going to be a pullback of this magnitude, where it's just a small? So the question is with Apple now, what type of pullback, if at all any, are we going to get? You can see on the daily chart we've had this 11-day surge, and just for the record, Apple has never had an 11-day surge of 11 straight green positive days in a row ever. So just ponder that for a minute. We are now entering a tightening cycle, higher interest rates, less liquidity. The fundamental drivers for tech are becoming what were the tailwinds over the last 2 years and now becoming the major headwinds. So from a fundamental point, you should pull back. From a technical point, you should definitely pull back. So the type of pullback, are we going to see a more controlled pullback? Or is it going to start taking out key pivot zones and major support areas like this pivot and these pivots back here? So the type of pullback is going to be very key as to what happens to the overall market, since Apple is now a 7.6% weighting in the index, in the major index, which is phenomenally high and carries extraordinary amounts of power and dollars per market cap. So if Apple pulls back, I suspect it pulls back to this COVID trend line, which was your trend line of support until you broke down here, came back up, tested it, broke back down, and then you busted through it with complete power. And one thing that is still concerning me is this declining volume. So I touched on this a couple weeks ago, but you can notice since we've put in the major tops here, we've had a series of declining volume bars. And that's not good, because what that shows you is you had bigger money, VC money and institutional money buying here, as well as here, as well as here. And this looks to be more retail volume, much, much lighter volume, which is a little bit of a red flag nuance in my opinion. And what constitutes bigger volume bars versus smaller volume bars is, say a fund has $1 million, and then say there's 1,000 retail traders that have $1 million combined. When one fund executes a big block of trades and puts that million to work right away versus 1,000 retail traders with $1,000, the volume bars are substantially higher, which means bigger blocks of money have come online and bought into whatever so-called dip. So that's how you get larger volume bars, and it typically means smarter money, bigger money is buying into that session. So I do think Apple pulls back. If Apple pulls back, it's going to bring everything down. And since the indexes are extended, many tech stocks are extended, they've had a tremendous bounce off the lows. I do think we get that pullback fairly soon. That being said, with the end of quarter one approaching, Thursday is the last day, Friday is the new quarter, I think institutions will pretty much keep their portfolio at these highs so that they can report a stronger quarter than what was to be expected. Clients never want to see the start of the year starting off poorly, and that's certainly what was going to happen until this 11-day rally occurred. And the sentiment has turned completely bullish when you have the likes of CNBC analysts Jim Cramer saying that the bottom is in. That's when you know you've generally hit a top. The sentiment in the industry is turned bullish again, and after an 11-day rally you would expect some sort of pullback, but the question is it a controlled pullback, or does the selling pressure for the next down leg start immensely? So there's lots to consider, lots to keep an eye on. We are shorting Apple at these levels, this clear pivot high to pivot high, pivot low to kissing it, to another kiss, to a pivot low. You have clear resistance and support levels identified, and like I said, you're checking all the boxes on a technical basis, on a fundamental basis, but that being said, you still want to inch into positions and make sure you're managing your risk